Welcome to the Susan LoPresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. This is your go-to space for midlife and mature women who are ready to reclaim their health, boost their energy, and live long, vibrant, and purposeful lives. Each week, we dive deep into natural wellness, holistic healing, anti-aging strategies, and healthy lifestyle habits to help you feel your best physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Whether you're navigating menopause, working through chronic conditions, or simply wanting to age gracefully and intentionally, this show is your sanctuary for science backed insights, powerful stories, and soul nourishing inspiration. So, if you're a woman over 40 or 50 or older looking to thrive in the next chapter of your life, you're in the right place. Today, I'm joined by a woman whose wisdom feels like sitting at the kitchen table with a lifelong friend, Simone Knego. Simone is a two-time TEDx speaker, best-selling author of The Extraordinary UnOrdinary You, and a sought-after voice in women's empowerment and leadership. Her signature real method, respect yourself, embrace failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits, has inspired women around the world to release perfectionism, reclaim their confidence, and reconnect with their authentic purpose. Simone is known for her relatable, heartfelt storytelling, whether she's talking about raising six children or climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. And she brings a beautiful reminder that the extraordinary is already within all of us. So, if you've been feeling stuck, unseen, or ready for a new beginning, this conversation is going to lift you, empower you, and remind you of your worth. So let's dive in. Simone, thank you so much for being here today. I'm super excited for this conversation, and
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
I want to start for the listeners who may be new to your work. What inspired you and your mission to help women to recognize the extraordinary within the ordinary lives?
So, I am someone who struggled with self-doubt for the majority of my life. And it wasn't until I had a couple of defining moments that I really realized what I was capable of. I always used to call myself an ordinary girl. Actually, I used to call myself just an ordinary girl. And what I realized over time is that we are all unique, right? That we are all extraordinary, but we have to change the way we see ourselves. That's the transformation I went through, and that's my goal with other women is help them change the way they see themselves.
How did you help yourself to see yourself differently? What
Mm.
was it that you did?
I did something completely out of my comfort zone. It's very unusual. I climbed a mountain. I live in Florida. I'm not a climber, but I was asked to climb Mount Kilimanjaro to raise funds for the Livestrong Foundation. And I said yes. And I said yes, partly because I was the yes girl for so long, always a people pleaser, didn't want to disappoint, but also in that time period, I really realized that I needed to get out of my comfort zone, that I was really struggling, and it was time to do something different. Now, I don't know if I would have done something else, would it have had the same effect? But this had the effect. This really helped me realize what I was capable of and understand that I don't need to worry about what anybody else is thinking. I need to focus on myself, self care, focus on my family, and not stop comparing myself to everybody else out
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. We're all unique in our own ways, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you call your approach the kitchen table leadership. Can you share what that means and how it can empower women, especially midlife women, to lead from where they are?
Yeah. Something I thought about for a very long time. I never considered myself a leader. It didn't matter what job I had. It didn't matter that I had six kids at home. I didn't see myself as a leader. And partly because I think that we've been sold this very narrow view of what leadership is, right? It's the
Hmm.
title, it's the boardroom, it's the corner office. But I don't believe that. I believe that leadership it is based on the decisions that we make every single day. When so many of the decisions that we make happen around the kitchen table, so many of the most important decisions we make happen around the kitchen table. So the idea is really understanding that the choices that you're making, those are all leadership decisions, right?
Yeah.
And but we've nobody's ever called it that. So we haven't said, "Oh, wow, I'm a leader." But when again, going back to when you change the way you see yourself, when you understand if you didn't make that decision, something else wouldn't have worked. Like it's a really important decision. So to start seeing yourself as a leader, and when you see yourself as a leader, you approach things differently, right? You're willing to speak up more. You're really willing to really share your opinions and your thoughts because you understand that what you have to say is valuable.
Yeah. Excellent point. Excellent. Absolutely. I believe that. Talk about your real method.
So that is something that came from my transformation after climbing Kilimanjaro, really understanding how I went from the person who really struggled, constantly comparing myself to other people, never feeling like I was doing good enough or good at all, and to where I am today, which is, it's all about being your most authentic self. So radical authenticity, right? And so
Yeah.
it is stands for respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. And I really thought it was really important to start with respect yourself because I remember as a child being taught to respect my elders, my peers, right? But never once do I remember being taught that the most important person to respect is myself. And we go around saying, oh, when I go in that meeting, I'm going to demand respect. What does that do? It's all about demonstrating it to yourself. So when you respect yourself, you self care, right? You set boundaries. You stop worrying about what anybody else is doing and really focusing on creating your best self and being your best self and not letting people walk all over you, right? And not being the yes girl. You don't need to be the people pleaser, right? And so often we see this, whether it's at home or at work, that you get stuck in that cycle of saying, "Oh, I'm going to demand respect," but you have to respect yourself first. And when
Yeah.
you respect yourself, other people understand how to treat you.
I agree. I feel like we were conditioned, like you said, from a very young age, especially as females. I'm not sure that males feel the same way that females, but we were raised in a way, I know I was. Children are to be seen, not heard, behave yourself, don't interrupt, and you just feel small. And I could speak for myself from this experience. And as you're growing up, you continue to feel small until you realize and come into your own at some point that no, my voice does matter. I should speak up. I should be able to say what it is I want or don't want or anything like that. And many women struggle with respecting themselves because they've spent so long putting others first. So, how do they start to rebuild that self respect?
I think very often what we struggle with is that negative voice inside our head, the voice that likes to
Yeah.
tell us that we're not good enough, we're not strong enough, we're not pretty enough, whatever the not enough is. I call the voice the what if whisperer, right? Oh my gosh, what if they don't like you? Or what if you fail at this? And so I created a little mindset hack. And this is like where I start. So obviously, there's a lot of work after this, but Control Alt Delete. So back in the day, it was how we would reset a frozen computer. Now, if you use it, it brings up Task Manager. I have no idea what
Yeah.
Task Manager does, but back in the day, it was how you reset a frozen computer. Sometimes our minds freeze too, right? We spiral in self doubt, we get caught in the comparison game. And the idea is control is about awareness, right? Becoming aware of the thoughts that are entering your mind. Because a lot of times, I think we go through the day with these negative thoughts and they're just part of us. So once we start building that awareness, we can stop those thoughts. So not from coming into your head, but what you do with them. When these thoughts come in, are they helpful? Are they real? Most of the time, it's the story that you're telling yourself, right? A lot of times we talk about, oh my gosh, I'm so worried that someone's going to judge me. Most of the time, they are not thinking about you. And we get so caught up in this. And then alt is about alternative. Tell yourself a better story, right? And instead of saying that you can't do something, why? Yes, you can. And instead of what if I fail, how about when I succeed? There's always an alternative for the negative. And it's not about toxic positivity. It's about really realizing what you're capable of. And
Yeah.
then the last part is delete. Delete the habits and beliefs that don't serve you. Delete the comparison game. Delete the apology. How many times do we apologize for something that does not need an apology? Every time we say something that, you know, kind of brings us down, our brain starts to believe that's the truth, right? Your thoughts become your reality. And when you're saying it to yourself all of the time, it definitely becomes your reality. And you have ability to change that. So Control Alt Delete it. That's my starting point. And it's interesting because when you look at the science behind it, you really do. When you start talking positively to yourself, you have the ability to change how your brain functions. There's been MRI studies that show different parts that light up when you start talking positively to yourself instead of negatively.
Yeah. And it's just as easy to talk to yourself positively as it is to be negative. You just need to catch those thoughts and be aware of them. And it takes practice, like everything else. It takes practice.
Yeah, it's funny because so often people are like, oh, I tried positive affirmations, they didn't work. Well, how often did you try them? I tried them once. Okay. Did you go to the gym one time and all of a sudden you can lift 200 pounds? No. Did you take one Spanish lesson and now you're fluent? No. So why would it be any different with your mindset? Confidence is a skill that you need to build from the inside out, and it takes constant practice. It's not like someone has it or they don't, they work on it.
Right. And for so many women that really don't know what it is they want, ask yourself what you want is something that many women haven't done in years. How can they connect with their desires?
So I think it all goes back to when we were kids, right? We all had something that we wanted when we were a kid, right? When I wanted to be an actress, that was my thing. And I feel like a lot of the work I do right now is part of that, right? Going on a podcast, going on a stage. But when I was in college, I was going to be a doctor. Both my parents were physicians. I failed organic chemistry, then I got a D in it. And then I told my dad I wanted to be an actress. And he said, no, he's accounting it is. I was like, okay, great. And that's what I did. I went into accounting. I always knew that there was something missing. I just couldn't figure it out. But it wasn't until I really sat down and said, what did I want when I was younger, right? What am I good at now? What are the things that I think are missing in my life? And when I put that all together and really started writing about it and understanding, take a look at these things, because so often we go through our lives from point A to point B and not knowing what we want because we've never asked ourselves the question. And I do think it's one of the hardest questions for women to ask themselves. But when you look back in time and you think, oh, when I was in college, this is really what I wanted to do, but life got in the way. Why can't you do that now? We look at ourselves, especially when we hit midlife. I don't know what I'm considered. I'm 53, but that, ooh, you're postmenopausal. You can't do anything now, right? Like you're only allowed to play mahjong and that's it. But you can do whatever you want to do. And you can't let anybody else's expectations lean on us and say, no, you're not capable of that. Because yes, you are. If you want it, you can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what does live without limits look like for women over 50 and 60 that may feel like some doors have closed? I don't
Yeah.
believe that any doors are ever closed, really.
Yeah, I don't believe any doors have closed. You just do things differently, right? I had shoulder surgery 4 months ago. I can't do the same things, but I can do different things, right? So I don't focus on what I can't do, it's what I can do. And when I talk about limits, it's we limit ourselves from the second we wake up until the minute we go to bed, right? Same thing, like, I can't do this, I'm not capable of this, or what I used to say, and I think I've noticed so many women who say this now that I'm really paying attention to it, is they'll justify their life by using the word just, right? I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm just a volunteer. I'm just too old for that. I'm just, whatever the just is, get rid of the just, drop the just, because you can do anything that you want to do. It doesn't matter how old you are, right? You have to, it might take a little bit longer for me if I wanted to go climb Kilimanjaro again. It would take me a lot longer to train for it, but that's okay. I just have to make that commitment and keep doing things. But so often we just tell ourselves, no, you just can't do that. Yes, you can. You can do anything that you want to do. You have to want it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a perfect example of that. I lost my corporate job at 61 years old. And I knew I wasn't going back into corporate. Who wants to hire a 61-year-old person who's going to probably retire in 4 years? And I just decided I was a health coach always. I got certified years ago, but I never did anything with it because I was working a corporate job. But I just said, you know what? I think I'm going to just embrace what I always loved and do it. And then it morphed into me creating a podcast. I started as a way to get myself known, and now it's completely changed everything. So you just never know. You have to take that leap and just have a little bit of faith that it's going to work out.
Yeah. What's the worst that's going to happen? You
Right.
try a podcast and okay, you record some episodes, you have something historical that people can look back to later. And that's, but so often we're not willing to give ourselves the chance to do something different. And a lot of it, I think, is societal when it comes to women at a certain age. Again, oh no, like at this age, you're done. You shouldn't be doing anything.
Right.
And I believe that you can do whatever you want as we get older. Like, why not? Do something completely different, something completely out of your comfort zone. And I also think as we get older, we really don't worry as much about what other people think. We're willing to put ourselves out there. So I think it's twofold. Take the chance, and maybe something that you wouldn't have done when you were younger because you were too afraid of the failure. And now you say, why not try it? What do I have to lose?
But how would you suggest that a woman, especially someone who's insecure, how would they reconnect with their real authentic purpose? Like, what would
Yeah.
they have to do?
Yeah, I really, for me, it's a lot of it is about journaling and really writing down the things that are important to me, like whether it's family, yes. Maybe there was something that you did when you were younger in the arts. I was talking to my mom recently about things that she did when she was younger. She's 86 years old. Her big thing is reading. She always loved reading. And she reads 5 books a week. Like she is constantly reading. And nobody should tell you, like, oh, no, you got to get the big print book or you should be reading that or whatever it is. Really looking back and saying, okay, let me write down the things that I really enjoy. And if everything, if there was no limitations, what would I want to do?
Right.
What would I want to do? And then start looking through the list of things that you enjoy and say, let me try this. And it could be a volunteer position, right? You could
Right.
say, let me go volunteer at this place. Like, for example, someone that, you know, doesn't have grandkids or always wanted kids. There's so many organizations you can volunteer at with children that make a huge difference in other people's lives. So I think the biggest thing is going back to the mindset that there's no reason to restrict what we want to do because looking at it and saying, okay, these are the things I like, these are the things I'm good at. Let me put them together. And you can make a job out of anything these days. Like
Yeah.
when you look at it, you're like, oh my gosh, would I ever thought that you could be an influencer and make millions of dollars? That still blows my mind. But you can do anything. It really is the sky's the limit.
Yes. You just have to put your mind to it. What do you say to women who feel like they lost themselves, especially after decades of taking care of children and their spouses and probably aging parents at some point?
That was me for a long time. I felt like I had lost myself. I have 6 kids. So
Yeah.
my whole life was about taking care of my kids. And it was really taking that step back and saying, wait, my kids need to understand that I'm human, that I'm not just their mom. And I think that was like a big eye opener for them when I said, I want to try different things and it's okay if I fail at them. And that idea of really saying, let me try this and not worry about anything else with it. But yeah, I definitely lost myself for a long time. I didn't even know how to cry for a long time. Like I had put up this facade that I was had to be super strong and I had to have it all together. And inside I was really struggling because I didn't have it all together and I didn't feel good about myself. So often we forget about that self-care piece, right? Doing things specifically for ourselves. And I look at my mom as a great example because she was a physician but she also cooked every meal in our house, right? Sometimes we'd get KFC, but like she would cook every meal. She made our clothes when we were little. And as she got older, it was very hard for her to not have someone to care for. So when my dad passed away, like that was a really big struggle for her because she had always had someone. Like she didn't matter if she left to go shopping, she would leave a sandwich in the fridge for him. That was
Yeah. Yeah.
what their relationship was. And at first it was a really big struggle. Now she has friends that she goes to the opera with and different shows, and she volunteers at one of the libraries because she loves books.
Yeah.
And the other thing we did was we got her a dog. And that was like the best thing ever because now she has something to care for. But yeah, we all, as women, we all have times where we struggle, where we say, what do I do now? I've done so much for everyone else my entire life. Now it's time to do stuff for you. And
Yes.
it's not selfish. It's important to take care of yourself and
Yes.
figure out things that make you feel good.
I feel like it's self-care, not selfish.
Absolutely self-care.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, how old were you when you realized that you wanted to do more than just be a mom, which is a beautiful job to raise six children, but you wanted something more than that. How old were you?
Yeah. So I've done many things over my life. There was a period of time, I think from when I was 30 to maybe 38, where that was when I was a stay-at-home mom, around there. I couldn't figure out what I wanted. So I changed my mind many times. So I started off, my professional career was as an accountant. I was a CPA. I owned a horse farm and taught riding lessons and created a summer camp. We moved to Florida, and then I flipped houses. And then I went into medical sales. Actually, then I went back to school to be a teacher. Then I went into medical sales. And then I found my purpose, which is storytelling, writing, and speaking, and having the podcast with my 22-year-old daughter. It's been a progression, right? So I've done many things over my life,
Yes.
but I had to get to the point where I realized what I was doing was important to me and valuable as well. And I think so many of the things I tried were because I didn't know what I wanted. It was like, okay, let's just try this and see if it works. So it
Yeah.
was never like, I never felt, oh, I was a failure at it. I felt like it was a great learning experience because the more things you try, the more you figure out, okay, this is what I want or this is what I don't want.
Right. So you reinvented yourself several times over.
I did. And now I'm the happiest I've ever been. I've been married to my husband for 32 years. We are
Wow.
almost empty nesters. Our youngest daughter is going off to college next year. And I did lose myself for a while, not knowing what do I want? What should I do? Do I have to be doing this? And I have plenty of friends who are like, why do you still do things? Like, why don't you stay home? Because I want to. I really love what I do.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like if I wasn't doing what I'm doing, my brain would become mush
Mm,
because what would you do all day? I want to ask you about your podcast. You said you do it with your 21-year-old daughter.
yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, we started that a little bit over 2 years ago. It's called Her Unshakable Confidence. And
I love
it's really one of the most fun things I do every week. So she's a second year law student. Like out of the six kids, she's the only one that would go on a podcast with me. But I guess
it.
that's for most people, they're like, my kid would not talk on a podcast with me.
Either with mine.
Pretty fortunate that she is willing to do it. But it's been such a cool learning experience for both of us. Obviously, the goal of the podcast is to help women build confidence. And for her, so we started it when she was 20 to get there quicker than I did. So, really learning tools and skills and hearing from guests about what they've done and what they think confidence is. And so it's always really interesting. Today we were recording an episode and this morning and we actually had our second guy on. Usually we only have women, but we're expanding. We're like, okay, we like men too. And we were talking about the word just. And she was saying one of the biggest takeaways I have after working with my mom for the last couple of years is really the words that we use to describe ourselves and how much that affects how we feel about ourselves. So it's really been such a great experience to watch her growth. And as a law student, she has no issues when she gets called on in class to stand up and speak her opinion. Like she
That's
obviously
beautiful.
she studies her butt off, but she also has no problem saying, this is where I stand and this is what I'm going to talk about. And when people ask her, how do you do that? I always feel like so nervous when I stand up. And she said, oh, I have a podcast with my mom. Like we have to ad lib all the time, so I'm used to it. So it's been
Let
really
me,
good.
I love that. I love that. I wish my daughter would want to be on my podcast with me. What are some everyday confidence building practices that women can start to do today?
First thing is positive affirmations. You have to talk to yourself like you would your best friend,
Yeah.
right? You would not say, I used to say horrible things to myself. My daughter walked in one time when I was on a rant about having gained weight again and I couldn't fit in my clothes. And she walked in and she said, first of all, mom, you're beautiful. Second of all, you're giving me a complex. How do you expect me to love my body when you don't even like your own? And it was such a wake up call for me because again, I think we don't realize what we're saying, right? We say things and then, so that's all about catching those negative thoughts, those negative comments. But when I realized it wasn't only affecting me, that it was affecting everyone around me, the people around us, they treat us like we treat ourselves, or they start treating themselves like we treat ourselves, right? So if my kids see me constantly berating myself, how are they going to treat themselves? So that was a wake up call for me to say, okay, I have to talk to myself like I would my best friend. And because I'm going to live with myself until the day I die. So I should be
Right.
my best friend. So, yeah, positive affirmations. And if you would have said 10 years ago, I would have said, oh my gosh, that is too woo. Those don't work. There is so much science behind them. Professional athletes, that there's a whole sports psychology for it that the way you talk to yourself really affects the way you perform. And so every morning, I am statements depending on the day, but what I'm capable of, right? And that I'm strong, I'm beautiful, I'm a patient, and it really does help. So that is, and if I'm walking into a situation that I know is going to be difficult, I remind myself what I'm capable of again. And then
Mhm.
in the evening, I always practice daily gratitudes because I could have had a really crappy day, but there's always something that I'm still grateful for. And that really changes my mindset. I am someone that sucks at sleeping. I'm definitely an insomniac. And so if I go to bed with a positive mindset, I'm much more likely to have a good night's sleep versus if I go in bed all angry and saying, oh,
Right.
that was a horrible day.
Absolutely, absolutely. What advice would you give a woman who's an empty nester or maybe post-divorce or simply wanting more and they have no clue what more looks like, but
Yeah.
they feel that they have this yearning for something and just don't know what it is?
Yeah, there's so many things out there that you can try, right? Really looking at what interests you. Is there a class that you could take? Is there something that you've always wanted to do? I remember with my parents when they were in their 60s, they started taking language classes, right?
Ah,
Before they would go on a trip. And it's not that they knew they weren't going to be fluent, but if they learned certain things, right? That was such a positive for them.
yeah,
But yeah, I would say that take a class, do some volunteer work, see something that really lights you up, and think back to in your past, like what were the things that you really liked when you were younger that you put aside because of a marriage, because of a job? There's no reason you can't do those now. Take the art class, right? Start
yeah,
ceramics again. You see so many women who are now doing amazing things that didn't do for years because they had to take care of their kids. And we have that idea that we can't do things if we're taking care of our kids, but we have to be taking care of ourselves all of the time.
yeah.
So self care is an everyday practice. It's not something you save until later. There's so many things that you could do right now that, just think back to what you really were interested in and take one small step forward with it.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that many women don't see it like that. Oh,
Mm,
no, I have no time for that. I can't. My children, my husband, my job, my household. And they're not fulfilling something inside. Like you could be fulfilled with your children and your husband or your career, but you need to do something that's just for yourself as well. I feel even if it's once a month that you take a Saturday and go somewhere and do something that you enjoy doing.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people, women have said to me, oh, my husband doesn't love that. I'm like, okay, yeah, you still have to take time for yourself. Does he take time for himself? Yes, he probably does. So that's the conversation. Like, why can't you? So one really funny thing was when I climbed Kilimanjaro, I got a few comments that were like, "Oh my gosh, don't you think that's selfish? You're going to leave your family at home for almost 2 weeks while you go climb a mountain. You're not a mountain climber. What if something happens?" And I said, okay, first of all, self care is never selfish. And what a great example for my kids to see that if you put in the work, you set the goal, you put in the work, that you can accomplish it.
Right.
Take chances. So the best part of that was I had several people say, oh my gosh, your husband is the best husband in the world. He's going to take care of your children while you're gone climbing a mountain. And I was thinking, my children, they're his kids too. Nobody ever tells me I'm doing a great job because I'm taking care of the kids every
Right.
day. But they do it one time and they're like, oh, or if they do the dishes, oh my gosh, your husband did the dishes? Wow, that's amazing. I think we need to rethink like some of our roles and in terms
Yeah,
of it's supposed to be a partnership. And
absolutely.
for me, my husband has always been supportive. And I think if he weren't supportive, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, I support you, you support me. That's how this works. It's a partnership.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. What do you hope that every woman who's on here listening takes away from this conversation today?
I think the biggest thing is that you don't need to change who you are. You need to change the way you see yourself, right? We talk so often about, oh, you have to change this and you have to change this. No, it's really about when you look at yourself in the mirror, when you think about yourself, what do you think? Do you see a strong, beautiful woman, or do you see someone that you don't want to even look at the reflection back at? Look at yourself in the eyes and say, I value you. And it's so important that we do this because that's how we walk through the world. So stop thinking about all the things you need to change. You can change whatever you want, but start with changing the way you see yourself.
I love that. I love that. Do you do coaching?
I do individual coaching. I'm actually starting a new group coaching session in January, and I do keynote speaking. And my second book is coming out in February as well.
Okay, so that was the next thing I wanted to
Yeah.
ask about your book and any speaking events that you do, plus your coaching. And I
Yeah.
want to put all of that information in the show notes as well, so people can buy your book and maybe they are listening on here and saying, wow, I could use a little
Yeah.
coaching.
Yeah. I would love that. Yeah. So my first book came out in 2020, perfect timing. It is called The Extraordinary Unordinary You. And it's all about realizing what you're capable of and recognizing that the little things you do every day matter. So really, it's self-help, but it's more like gentle self-help where I'm telling you
Yeah.
stories and really how I don't tell you exactly what to do. Stories about we adopted our youngest three kids, so stories about their adoption stories. Really, again, for me, it was like this transformation of what I was capable of. And the second book which comes out February 17th. It's called Real Confidence, a simple guide to go from unsure to unshakable.
Mm.
And it uses my real method. So again, respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. And that one I'm really excited for this book to come out. I just got the PDF, like the version, and it's so pretty. I'm like, oh, it's so pretty.
Oh,
And yeah, it's very vulnerable. I had an abusive relationship in high school, and that's really where my self-doubt journey began. So I tell that full story and then move on from there and encouraging women to see really what they're capable of.
I love when a woman comes out on the other side and it's beautiful. I
Yeah.
love it. I love your story. I
Thank you.
loved having you on today. Thank you so much, Simone. I appreciate it. And I wish you the best of luck with everything that you do. And I absolutely love what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
it was my pleasure to have you.